Welcome back. Disney earnings, they're scheduled to be released tomorrow, and over time, investors waiting to see if the results will echo Paramount and Roku's strong reports. Joining me now to discuss, New York Times columnist and CNBC contributor Jim Stewart, who literally wrote the book on the company. It's good to see you. Welcome to Closing Bell.
Yeah, good to be with you.
All right, so if we assess where we are in this turnaround story, if you had to say the inning, what would you say?
Oh, I think maybe 6 or something. You know, we're a long way from the finish line here, and there's something. You know, this really weird thing is going on at the moment, which is the writer's strike, which finally settled, and the Screen Actors Guild, which is still not settled, and that has thrown a wrench into getting much predictability out of these current results.
What do you make of Hugh Johnson coming in as CFO? It's obviously not lost on anybody who's followed, you know, him and Nelson Peltz, who obviously is big in the stock, that he was at Pepsi when Nelson had his thing with Indra Nooyi and Pepsi there. Is this a coincidence that he's at Disney now? How do you assess that whole thing?
Well, I'm sure that on his resume was a big plus. I don't know him personally. I hear, you know, very positive things. PepsiCo results have been, you know, quite impressive. He's very experienced, and he's been in the thick of things in a Peltz situation like this. So he has, you know, kind of unique credentials on the positive side. I will say, and also I think he's going to hopefully bring some stability here. There's been a lot of upheaval at the top of Disney, which I don't need to tell you or most viewers about, starting with Bob Iger coming back, and then all the lieutenants of Chapek getting ousted, and realignment, getting rid of the previous CFO for whatever reason. So there's been a lot of turmoil. Hopefully he will bring some stability to this, which I think will be very good for shareholders. That said, Disney has a very unique culture, and it's very top-driven, it's very bureaucratic, it's very hierarchical. It has not always been easy for an outsider to come in there and readily adapt. So that's the one asterisk I would put over his arrival.
Well, you know, as we think about, you know, Iger's successor, you know, we've already seen this go bad once, and you talk about, you know, culture. It probably, you know, I think you would agree, needs to be somebody with a understanding of the creative side and how hard it is for an outsider to come in. So do you think now firmly that the successor to Bob Iger is inside?
Well, I would think, look, it's hazardous to guess, but I would think yes. They have never, not since they brought in Michael Eisner all those years ago, have they brought in someone who was not steeped in that Disney culture, going all the way back to the tradition that the CEO has to dress up as a theme park character and work in the parks, as I have to say I did when I was working on my book. But that aside, yeah, I think it has to be somebody from inside the company. And that's another thing about the Peltz issue. You know, Peltz came in once. He said, let's do some cost cutting. Disney pretty much agreed they would do it all. He went away. Then the stock kept going down, so now he's unhappy. But I still have yet to hear from Peltz. What fundamentally does he see as a solution to the reasons the stock is down? I have yet to hear that message. Now, maybe he has a plan. Maybe he has some solution to the streaming quagmire that all these companies are in, but I have yet to hear it.
But what's the harm for Disney putting him on the board? I mean, at this point, and now the fact that he controls the Perlmutter stake, so he has a lot more heft than he did before. Is there really a great harm? I mean, you game these things out pretty well. You know, A, what's the harm, and B, what do you think happens?
Well, there is potential harm. You know, is he going to be a team player on that board? I wouldn't want to make any guesses about that. You know, it's certainly there are board members and they're board members. Some are much more influential. He could be marginalized. He could be on the board. They could listen to him politely and then, you know, do whatever they want to do. But I think the main risk when you have someone who's has an agenda that's distinct from what the company leadership has is the risk of information getting out of the boardroom. And that is a really serious issue here. It's, you know, there are leaks and there are leaks. They're very hard to know where they're coming from, strategic leaks here and there. That is the last thing Disney needs right now.